So this one's set in Argentina and it's mostly in Spanish. And I've had it on my list of movies to review for months now. But for some reason I just kept putting it off, and I have no idea why. It's just one of these movies that almost slipped through the cracks. Well, I did finally sit down to watch it, and I'm very happy I did. Because I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was a really good movie. And it's about this kid in his late teens maybe, I'm not sure they specify. But he's essentially a small-time thief, but it's more of a hobby than anything else. He just likes to go around rich people's houses and steal some stuff here and there. But he's also always getting in trouble and has to move schools a lot. So there's some tension between him and his parents too. But he himself doesn't seem too stressed about it. In fact, he doesn't really seem to be stressed about anything. He just takes things in stride and appears to be kinda carefree and happy. He also seems to have a very interesting outlook on life in general. And it's not a character I've seen before, it felt fresh and new. Anyway, that's just sort of the setup for the movie, because then he meets someone at school. And from there on his life as a criminal really kicks into gear, it becomes more than just a hobby. That's essentially what the movie is about, this kid and his exploits. And you know what? It was just fun and kind of a crazy ride. It's also not just the character that felt fresh, the whole movie did. It takes a very interesting approach to telling a story of a criminal, with the tone and the way it's paced, because it's kinda slow. There's not a whole lot of action in it, and even when things start to really happen, the action isn't really emphasized through quick cuts or editing. In fact, it's almost de-emphasized, if that's a word. It's sort of made to feel less exciting than it could be. It's just very toned down and like, I don't even know how to describe it. Well, I guess it's sort of played for humor actually, because this thing is sort of funny. It's got a very interesting tone, because there's always this underlying comedic lean to it, but it's very subtle and dark. They never play it up or do any kind of jokes or anything like that. I mean, some of the stuff is more overtly funny than the other stuff. But the humor is almost always there in the background. And as I said, a lot of it is very subtle too, and I love the tone in this thing. It's very unique, and I can't say I've seen a movie quite like it. Oh, and then there's also these weird sexual undertones throughout the whole thing. There's this strange unresolved tension that seems to be intentionally a bit ambiguous. So I thought that was interesting and so well handled too. You never really know what's going on beneath the surface. I mean, I had a pretty good idea, but it still kept it kind of vague. And there is essentially a sort of a love story hidden in there too. And yeah, the tone in this is masterful. It's really quite something. Because when you deal with this kind of subtlety, it's so easy to go overboard. Or to just be too vague so the point doesn't come across. But this thing nailed it, and on a technical level, the way this is shot and put together is very good. I also enjoyed the soundtrack quite a bit, it was very well utilized. And the acting's great too, I had no real issues with it whatsoever. In fact, I had very few issues with this movie as a whole. Just some minor nitpicks here and there, not even really worth mentioning. And I thoroughly enjoyed this, I thought it was really good on pretty much every level. That being said, it does feel a bit unconventional in many ways. Mainly due to the tone, I guess. It's just very vague and subtle and a bit strange. Now, I personally liked that. It made it feel unique and made it stand out. But I could see some people not loving that sort of thing. However, the narrative itself is actually fairly straightforward. There are definitely a few twists and turns along the way too, but it's easy enough to follow and it's structurally very solid. So would I recommend this? Yeah, I do think this one's very much worth giving a shot. It might not be for everyone, but it's worth checking out anyway. Or you could just skip it, after all, I'm not your dad. But I am trying to sell out, so consider liking, subbing, hitting that bell and supporting me on Patreon. Because I really need to get myself one of those old school motorcycles. And hey, why not drop a comment below or check out another review? I'd appreciate it. Thanks.